Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 42 of the Fifth Maple Board Game Podcast. We are a group of diverse friends who offer our takes on the latest and greatest board games to hit our table. I'm your host, Daniela, the goofy noob, and I'm joined today by the collector.
Hey, this is David.
The intellectual introvert.
Hi, everyone. This is Chris.
And the deluxeifier.
Hello, it's Pete here.
Okay, today is part 3 of our crazy tournament that we call Meeple Bandits. We started the last episode with 16 games and the Battle of the Funnest winners from all of the prior year's episodes and whittled that down to our Elite 8. In today's episode, the cardboard will clash and the dice will duel until we have a single game left standing, winning this year's Meeple Bandits in the ultimate survival of the funnest. And if you don't know, we have recorded 2 prior episodes to this. So if you are listening right now or just jumping in, pause it right where you're at. Go back 2 episodes prior to episode 40 and 41 so you can listen to our previous picks and how we got here. But before we get into that, David, what's on your mind?
Yes, we're going to just do a quick buy, borrow, or burn today. And just because we have a lot of heavy stuff coming up, I'm going to go back to kind of when we were kids. And so this is, are you going to buy this game? Are you going to borrow it? Or are you going to burn it? And it's the 3 games that I'm going to announce to you are this: Chutes and Ladders, Candyland, and Sorry.
I will start. I'm burning Candyland. I'm dousing it with as much accelerant as I can.
Settle down.
And letting that thing burn. I don't know. It's a good game for young kids. I understand that, but the reality is it's just not a good game.
You're going to feel really bad when I give my story here.
I probably will, but I'm burning it anyway. Oh. Chutes and Ladders I had a lot of fun with. I spent a lot of time on my own. I have played solo multi-handed for my entire life, and I remember playing Chutes and Ladders a lot. I loved the whole concepts of how you can jump up or slide down really fast. But I'm borrowing that one because Sorry for me is a game that I would go over to my grandmother's house, and this is one of the games that we would play. We would play Sorry. And so I can't imagine doing anything other than buying that game, having it on my shelf, and thinking of my grandmother every time I look at it. So for me, I'm buying Sorry, I'm borrowing Chutes and Ladders, and I am lighting up Candyland.
All right, well, I'm going to go the other way. I'm going to buy first, and I am buying Sorry, because I've actually played that game probably a couple of years ago. We played it at game night. It was something that people wanted to play, and you know what? It's pretty fun. There's a little take that with that. Borrow Chutes and Ladders. I'm going to be quite honest here. I don't know that I remember these games too much other than Candyland, just because of the boys when they were little. I think we probably had a copy of it. Chutes and Ladders, I probably remember playing as a kid, so that would be a borrow. And Candyland, we'll burn it.
Throw it on my pile. We'll burn them together.
Big bonfire coming up, Daniela.
All right. Screw you guys. No, I'm just kidding.
Those are the 2 older members of our group, just FYI.
I am
okay,
actually going to buy Candyland. Candyland growing up for me is so nostalgic. For Halloween one year, wanted to be Queen Frostine. My mom made me a cute little dress, and it even had like the little flowing thing behind her that was like kind of like a capey thing, but I would flip it around in front of me and carry like my little baby dolls in it. And I have pictures. If I can find it, maybe I'll post it. It's funny. But that just holds a lot of, nostalgia in my heart. And I actually do have the tin box like version of it, kind of like the retro version of it. So I don't know. I just have really good memories for that. I'm going to borrow Sorry because I do have great memories of that game too, playing that as we grew up as well. And I'm going to burn Chutes and Ladders all day. David.
No reason, you're just gonna burn it. Okay,
it was the last thing.
Oh, I'm actually gonna agree. My picks are exactly like Daniela's.
You were Queen Frostine too?
No, I was not Queen Frostine, but I just remember playing Candyland and flipping over the cards, and my brother would flip over one, and he'd have to go all the way back to like Peppermint World or something, and he'd be like, "No!" And I just thought that was hilarious. And so yeah, Candyland holds a special place in my heart too. Just because of how those cards flip up, especially if you're stuck on a blue one, the gumdrop spots, and you're like, I need another blue card so I can move, and you can never get the blue card. Sorry to me is going to be what I'm going to borrow. That game could be a little bit mean. I remember leading to fights with my siblings, so that's a fun one. And then Chutes and Ladders, yeah, I think that's the game we played the least, so that's probably why I'm burning that game. But all a lot of fun, so there we go.
All right, guys. That was a great discussion topic. Any final thoughts on there? No?
I would have put trouble in there too. That's
Okay.
kind of like
Oh,
sorry.
it's coming. Don't worry about it.
Pop-o-matic.
Stop
We'll
with
do
the
it with Boggle.
spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. Okay.
All right. Thanks, David. So those are our opinions on the buy, borrow, and burn. We'd love to know your guys' opinions on that. Let us know what we got right and what we didn't. Let us know by sending us an email at thefifthmeeple@gmail.com. Follow us on social media or in our BGG guild, or check us out on our website at thefifthmeeple.com. In addition to subscribing to our show, one of the best ways to help us grow is to leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you may listen. And if you do, we may just read it on a future episode. You know what, guys? I just can't take it anymore. Let's get the madness started.
All right, everyone. The moment of truth truly has arrived. We are going to take the remaining 8 games, battle them out until we're left with just one ultimate champion in our 2025 Meeple Madness Tournament. In our last 2 episodes, we eliminated 10 games from the tournament. Now, looking at the 8 games we still have remaining, we have Brass Birmingham, our number 1 seed, Eldritch Horror, Lost Ruins of Arnak, Camel Up, Viticulture, Glory to Rome, El Grande, and Terraforming Mars. Any favorites before we get started? Any thoughts?
I think there's going to be some upsets.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I'm kind of curious on how this is going to shake out.
All right, well, let's get it rolling then. As a reminder how this works, for each head-to-head matchup, we compare both games in 5 different categories: theme and production, mechanisms, value for your time, replayability, and the fun factor. We'll each choose which game we think outdoes the other in each category. The game that gets the most votes wins the category, and the game that wins the most categories wins the battle and moves on to the next round in our tournament. In our first Elite 8 matchup, we have the number 1 seed, Brass Birmingham. It defeated Bombbusters in the last round to get here, and it's matching up against Eldritch Horror, who took out Decrypto in its first round. Guys, we went through what those games are like, what they're about in the last couple episodes. We'll just jump right into this battle. I will say, though, David didn't get a chance to play Eldritch Horror anytime recently, maybe ever. So he's going to have to sit out this first one as we move someone into the final 4. Brass Birmingham, Eldritch Horror. We're going to start with theme and production. Pete.
I'm going to surprise everybody here. I'm just kind of going off. We've talked about these games a little bit already, so listen to those podcasts. The one thing I think that makes this game better is the theme, and I'm going to go with Eldritch Horror. I think that theme just kind of is a bit over, or not even a bit. I think it's much more prevalent than the theme that I have in Brass. So with that being said, production-wise, I'm going to go with Eldritch Horror. Danielle?
Yeah, theme and production, I'm sticking with Eldritch Horror as well. I like that H.P. Lovecraft, that whole mythos style of that, and then the Industrial Revolution doesn't really speak to me. That's fine. Chris?
I want to agree with everything you guys said. Really excellent theme. I don't know that the production is anything super special. I bling it out a lot, and so that helps, but even just on the basic, Brass Birmingham isn't all that special either. Eldritch Horror is going to sweep that one 3-0 in at least our first upset in a category. We'll move on to mechanisms, and I'll kick it back to Daniela.
So for mechanisms, I'm probably going to have to go with Brass Birmingham for the straightforwardness of it. There's a lot that Chris, again, held our hands on, praise God, during Eldritch Horror, even though it was complex, but it's very interesting. So I would encourage people to play it. But for mechanisms, Brass Birmingham. Chris?
I am also going to go with Brass Birmingham for this. I think the mechanisms in both are pretty good. We've talked in the past, Eldritch Horror has a lot of things that mix up together. But Brass, I think just the tightness of that, building out your network, trying to find the right combination, the right way to get the points squeaked out of there, I think it's excellent. I'm going with Brass. Pete, we sweeping it, or are you going the other way?
We're sweeping it. The way that the combination of those mechanics work together, I think is fantastic. I love that, trying to get the, do I want to go first? Do I not want to go first? The sharing of resources, the market play, it just, everything cohesively comes together. And I think for that reason, I'm going to go with Brass Birmingham.
All right, so Brass Birmingham sweeps mechanisms 3-0. We have a 1-1 tie. We go to value for your time. I'm going to start this one. This is a tough one for me because I really, really like Eldritch Horror. I have fun the entire time we're playing that, but man, it's long. And the part that really gets me is the setup and the put away. There's so much stuff there. I mentioned in previous episodes, if I'm playing this, I'm probably setting it up on my table in the basement somewhere so I can play several games of it, just knowing that, hey, sometimes I don't even play it because I think about what it's going to take to set that game up, and I'll find something else. So just from that alone, I've got to go with Brass. Surprise myself a little bit. I'll kick over to Daniela.
No, I think to be fair to this category into these two games, I don't have to set this game up. Chris, you do. You said it takes a lot of time and effort. I think if we're talking about value for time, just on these two games based on purely, are we pulling this out and setting it up like in 10 minutes, or is it taking 2 hours because you have to 3D print everything? But no, I unfortunately, tough for me. I'm going to have to say Brass for this, Pete.
And not that Brass is a quick setup, right?
No, it's not.
But Eldritch Horror takes a long time. Sorry, Pete.
No, we're gonna sweep it again. Brass, Birmingham. I'm gonna be able to get it to the table more often than we will Eldritch Horror. I enjoy both games, and I think Eldritch Horror may still win some other categories here. So we'll find out what's gonna go on. But for right now, value for my time, I want to play Brass.
All right, so Brass Birmingham sweeps value for your time as well. We go to replayability. Back to Pete.
Yeah, I'm going to stick with Brass on this. I know there's a lot of content with Eldritch Horror, but I think there's still so much to explore, and the way that each game plays out in Brass Birmingham can be different. There's different we talk about pathways to victory. With Eldritch Horror, we know what we need to do. Yeah, there's obstacles that come up and get in the way, but I just think Brass is going to do it for me. Daniela?
Yeah, I'm going to go the opposite way. I'm going to say Eldritch Horror on this one because for replayability, for me, there is, I think, so many. For Chris to play 90-something games of this, like it tells me that there's a lot to discover. And every time you probably have the combinations of all those cards and the different monsters and things that come out, I just think that this is like a whole world that is just completely untouched in my gaming experience. Chris?
Yeah, I'm going to surprise myself here. I agree. I played it 96 sometimes. I think it's different every time. I have 8 expansions for it. And so the base game only comes with a certain amount of cards, only comes with 4 ancient ones. There's still a lot of replayability in there, but I think I get all the replayability out because I have all of those expansions. This is really tough. What I'm really doing is just dragging it out so I don't have to make my decision, but I'm eventually going to have to do it. I'm going to surprise myself and just say Brass, even though I feel like there's something that I do try to always go big cotton, but inevitably someone's going to get in my way and I'm going to have to change that. And as soon as that changes, then that game is different than every other game. But Eldritch, again, if someone else wants to set it up for me, I'll play it anytime. But I'm going with Brass. Brass takes replayability. We go to the fun factor. I'm going to go first. I have tons of fun playing Eldritch Horror. It's the huge swings. It's the big roll that either you're going to just go into oblivion or you're going to have this epic, amazing roll that you didn't think you could do. I have a blast playing Eldritch Horror once I get past the setup. I'll kick it to Daniela.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the camaraderie that we had playing the game. I enjoyed when we were like, Pete, you just need to die and start anew. And it was just,
in the game, to be clear.
In the game. Yeah,
in the game.
Please clarify that.
I don't remember feeling any of that way in Brass Birmingham. So, Pete.
I am on the fence, and with you guys both going with Eldritch Horror, it's hard not to agree with you guys on the fun factor. The interaction I get with Brass and that shared resources, man, this is tough.
Just say it doesn't matter.
Well, it might, but you know what? I agree with you. I really had a great time coming over your house and playing that. I enjoy playing Brass often. I think it's an epic game. I'm just gonna stick with Brass. I have to. As much as I enjoyed that game, I get more plays in a Brass. It's more fun. It's more accessible.
All right. Well, Eldritch Horror still squeaks out a victory in fun factor. However, with the score of 3-2, Brass Birmingham defeats Eldritch Horror to move into the final 4. Guys, that one was close. I thought Brass was going down.
I thought so too. I don't know anything that I would have changed that would have made any difference, though.
All right, well, let's keep it moving in our second Elite 8 matchup, which will allow David to come in and play too. We have the number 5 seed, Lost Ruins of Arnak, going up against the 13 seed, Camelot. Camelot defeated Concordia in a pretty big upset, although maybe one we could have predicted, but from a standpoint of rankings, it was an upset. Lost Ruins beat Castles of Mad King Ludwig to get here. Let's go ahead and get right into it. Theme and production. David.
I think I'm just going to go with what I feel on this one. And Lost Ruins does it for me. I just love the theme. I'm immersed. I like being Indiana Jones. So I'm going to go with that. I'm going to kick it over to Daniela.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with David. Lost Ruins is great. I really enjoy the theme. Camel Up is great as well. It's different, but Lost Ruins is going to be on the production side as well for me. Pete.
It pains me to say it, but I'm going to agree with you guys. I think Lost Ruins of Arniac, I think the production's just a little bit nicer than Camel Up. Chris?
Yeah, we'll make it a clean sweep. Lost Ruins for me. I think both of the themes are good. Production's a little better with Lost Ruins. So 4-0, Lost Ruins sweeps theme and production. We'll move on to mechanisms. Back to Pete.
Yeah, it pains me to say this, but I'm going to go with Lost Ruins of Arniac. I like the deck building. I like the, placing your worker down. I think it works real well. The cascading effect on it. The mechanics is fairly simple on Camel Up. So I'm going to go with Lost Ruins. I'm going to swing it over to Daniela.
I'm going to go with Lost Ruins on mechanisms here. There's just more to it. There's a little, Camel Up is fairly straightforward. Lost Ruins got some really great meat on its bones there, especially with the expansions. Really have enjoyed playing with some of those as well. It's okay, Pete. We didn't kill your camel. Both things can be true. David.
For the reasons you guys said, I'm going to go with Lost Ruins as well on this one. I also think you can teach this one. It might not be a beginner game, but I think you could teach this one to people who have a lot of gaming experience, and they could still latch onto this one and have a lot of fun with it. So I'm going to go with that. Kicking it over to Chris.
Yeah, I'm in the position where my vote doesn't matter. I could go either way. Lost Ruins of Arnak, we talked about it last episode. You got two meeples, but you can do so much with that. And I really enjoy the chaining together of actions. That happens a lot in Lost Ruins, especially in the fourth and fifth rounds here. Camel Up, though, it's got that mechanism. I don't like that type of mechanism yet. Camel Up, I'm in. Doesn't matter. I'm still going with Lost Ruins. Lost Ruins, sweeps mechanisms, 4-0. We'll go to value for your time. I'll go to Pete.
Oh, I'm so sad. I really thought Camel Up would be able to pull this one through, but the value for the time, I'm going to go with Lost Ruins of Arniac. It's a game. It's a deeper game than Camel Up. If I'm just going out to have a good time, and again, these are two separate types of games, and when I sit down and I look at these categories, it's just that value I think I get more out of Lost Ruins of Arniac. I played it more than Camel Up. I played a fair amount of Camel Up too, so I'm going to go with that. I'm going to swing it back to Chris.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with Lost Ruins as well, while at the same time, though, Camel Up, certainly the shorter game, that's not what's important to me. But either one of these, if I look at how much fun do I get, but how much time, they're both awesome. But it's going to be Lost Ruins for me anyway. I think it's a lot deeper, as you said. And as a gamer, that's where I'm going to go. Daniela.
I think value for your time, I'm actually going to go with Camel Up here because I believe I can pull this game out, teach it to people. It's very straightforward. You can play a couple rounds back to back, which is great in a game. If you're going to teach someone and have a new, like I said, I've been eyeing this game. I've been kind of on the fence of buying it, but I think I might go back and buy it and get it into my collection and start playing this with family and friends. I just think the value for the time on this one, I think for me, in my space, I would have more friends who would want to play this versus Lost Ruins and trying to teach that. David.
Yeah, for me, it just comes down to player count. If I look for value for my time, I normally want to have a game night where I can get some meat on the bones. I do a lot of outreach stuff where I can try to bring new gamers in. We do the once a month thing at the church and all that stuff. And that's great for Camel Up. But if I'm looking for value for my time, I actually want to play a real game. I think Camel Up does well if I have like 7 players. That's what I'm probably pulling out. But Lost Ruins is going to take this one for me because I feel like I'd rather just bring 3 people over to my house and play a solid game and get them learning something that has more meat on the bones.
All right, Lost Ruins again takes the category value for your time. We go to replayability. Back to David.
This one I'm going to go with Camel Up when I'm thinking about it. I love Lost Ruins. I can't wait for the new expansion stuff to come out. Maybe, I've just played it a little bit too much, but Camel Up, I just think that there's more replayability because you have no clue what's going to happen. So I'll go with that. Kicking it over to Daniela.
Yeah, I'm going back to Lost Ruins on this one. Just the different monsters and the different areas to explore and trying to move up the track. There's a lot that I think needs polished in the game, like for an individual when you're starting to play it, just to try and eke out those wins. So that's kind of what I'm going to say. Pete.
I'm going to go with Lost Ruins of Arniac. I think there's just more cards, more opportunity. There's a lot of expansions, and I know we're not going into expansions, but there's that too. They have wonderful expansions with this. If you feel that you did hit your limit, there's really not that much of an expansion for Camel Up. I know there's the backwards camels and things like that, but replayability, Lost Ruins of Arniac.
So sad.
Chris, I am.
You sound really happy about that.
Camel Up's one of my most favorite games, and Lost Ruins of Arniac too. They're both great.
Two things can be true.
I know, but there can only be one winner. Chris.
And the winner's going to be Lost Ruins because I'm going to go with Lost Ruins as well. Camel Up, I think if I played a couple times in a row, I'm probably okay. I've probably had my fill of that for quite some time. Lost Ruins, while it can be a tiny bit samey, it's also very different when you play it each time. So it's Lost Ruins for me. 4-0 for Lost Ruins. Pete, you haven't got to vote for Camel Up yet. Our last category is Fun Factor. I'm going to kick it to you first.
Camel Up all the way. No, Camel Up is just it's just so much fun. When you're playing it with the right group of people, you're bringing people to the table, they're standing up, we're shouting, crazy things are going to happen. That is much more fun to me than playing Arniac. I'm just going to go with that. Daniela?
Yeah, I'm staying with you on the camel. 2 humps. You on one, me on the other.
Right.
That camel. So Sally Camel had 2 humps. We're going with Camel Up. Pete, Chris, whoever you are.
I'm going with Camel Up as well. I enjoy both games. The one that I think is probably more fun is Camel Up. It's pure chaos, but it's fun chaos. David, where are you at on this one?
I have my Indiana Jones hat on today, so I'm going to go with Lost Ruins on this one. I just can't get away from how much fun I have trying to get all of the stuff out of one squeeze and get every single thing I can milk it for. So I'm going to go with Lost Ruins.
All right, so Camel Up will take the fun factor, though, 3-1. However, with the score 4-1, Lost Ruins of Arnak outruns Camel Up and moves into the Final Four. All right, in our next Elite 8 matchup, we have the number 6 seed Viticulture against the number 14 seed Glory to Rome. Viticulture took out Earth in a battle of slow turtles. Viticulture was the fastest turtle. Glory to Rome, maybe in a surprising win over the Castles of Burgundy. Both of these games have people sitting at this table that are not fans. So, but then both of these games also have people sitting at this table who are. So we'll see how it goes. Let's get it rolling. Viticulture versus Glory to Rome. Pete.
Yeah, this one's a clear-cut one for me. Viticulture, the theme comes through, the production's nice. It's just Viticulture. There's no second thought in my mind. Chris?
I'm going with Viticulture as well. I think just from a production factor, well, no, it's theme too. I think the theme with Viticulture comes through in all the mechanisms, which helps for me, and the production just blows it out of the water. So Viticulture for me. Danielle?
Begrudgingly, I have to say Viticulture on theme and production. When Glory to Rome is on the table, I'm looking at it. It has nothing to do with Rome or the glory to it until you start to get into it. Viticulture, you could spread it on the table, and you kind of know what you're doing. David?
Since I never make any wine in viticulture, I'm going to go with Glory to Rome on this one. Maybe because I own it. So, got to go there. I love that black box. And I don't tell anybody where it is because it's valuable. So, one day I'll bring it out for you guys to see.
Yeah. David, doesn't matter. Viticulture defeats Glory to Rome 3-1 in theme and production. We'll move on to mechanisms. Danielle.
Again, I can't get the mechanisms going in Viticulture for me and my wine company. I do believe that I understand how the cards are supposed to be played in Glory to Rome and how you're supposed to utilize them. So I'm going to go with mechanisms, Glory to Rome. Pete.
Viticulture has worker placement. It's one of my favorite mechanisms. I do enjoy games with cards. Glory to Rome is not one of those. I think but I do want to call out the one really great thing about the worker placement with Viticulture is that grande worker, where in a lot of games you can be squeezed out, or you don't have that opportunity to do that one thing that you desperately need to do. And I think just that one piece really kind of opens up the game and just kind of elevates it for worker placement. So I'm going to say that. David.
I do like both of these. It's worker placement kind of at its core versus multi-use cards. And right now, I just like multi-use cards more. I get more out of it. So for mechanisms, that's kind of where I'm at this point in time. Going over to Chris.
Yeah, I was leaning towards Glory to Rome until Pete was talking about that Grande worker. And I played several two-player games with my brother. And that Grande worker was really, really important. Yeah. Where at each spot in a two-player game, there's one spot you can go to, right? If you're not going first and we both want that spot, you ain't getting it. And there were times I'm using that Grande worker in the first season because I desperately needed that. And if I don't, it doesn't matter if I have it later. I can't have it. I'm going to have to agree with you there. I'll surprise myself. I'll go with Viticulture, which means we are at 2-2 in mechanisms. That's a tie. We're going to let it ride, see how things turn out. We'll go to value for your time. I'm going to start. I'm actually going to go with Viticulture here as well, only because the game doesn't take that long when I play it, but I feel like the games we've played together maybe have, but I don't feel that way. When I'm playing Viticulture, it's over fast. Glory to Rome's really, really good too. Daniela, go ahead and just negate it for me. Or
I don't
what?
think I can. All right, so value
These
for
are
your
both
time.
games you're not a huge fan of either one of these.
I know, this is brutal because I actually, when we played Bruges, that was a much better game.
I don't know how that lost, but anyways.
Yeah, I'm looking back going, how did we lose that? Okay, okay, value for my time. I agree with you, Chris, that when playing Viticulture, even though it's not clicking 100% and I'm not making anything work, it doesn't feel like a long game to me. Glory to Rome felt a little bit choppy at times. It felt, though, a little fast at times as well, because you're like, oh my gosh, it's my turn already. And so I can't believe I'm going to say this. I think I'm going to have to say Viticulture. I'm just going to stop.
You must be drinking the wine.
I know. I just can't. I don't know. David, go ahead.
You want to do a buy, borrow, and burn on these ones?
Yeah.
I wish I knew what Pete and Chris are talking about half the time, but I rather watch paint dry on a wall. So I'm going to pick Glory to Rome on this one. Easy for me. I just feel like when I play Viticulture, I'm literally watching paint dry on the wall. So going over to Pete.
I'm going to say the value for my time is Viticulture. And the reason being, we talk about that chaos and, you talk about having agency over your game. I'm at the whim of, I feel like I'm in a whirlwind and there's nothing there for me. There's nothing for me to grab onto and try to figure out. I'm not saying it's a bad game. I just don't get it. And I would much rather play Viticulture with my wife than play this with you guys.
Thanks.
There, man. I said it.
Well, Viticulture takes value for your time 3-1 over Glory to Rome. We'll go on to replayability. I'll start this one. I enjoy the heck out of Viticulture. It does seem kind of the same, and I'm just doing the same thing over and over again. Glory to Rome. We haven't played it enough. When we have, it's different every time. I'm going with Glory to Rome here. I'm going to kick it over to David so that it can take a lead.
Yes, I'm going with Glory to Rome. I don't think I even have to say why. So I'm going to agree with Chris. I do think I want to play it more. I feel like I've seen everything that Viticulture has to offer just after 3 or 4 plays. So kicking it over to
we're staying
Daniela.
we're staying with the glory. Pete.
Doesn't matter what I say, but I'm going to say Viticulture. And I think the reason for me is because I've played Viticulture a whole lot more than Glory to Rome. And some of this replayability to me is how often does it get to the table? And I just don't see Glory to Rome hitting the table. I think it requires a certain group to really take advantage of it. And in that case, I can't even tell you how much fun I had laughing playing Viticulture during the hurricane. So that's for the next category.
All right, Pete holds steady on Viticulture, but the rest of us went with Glory to Rome. Replayability goes to Glory to Rome. Right now we're sitting 2-1 in Viticulture's favor, but we go to the fun factor. I'll go to Daniela.
Yeah, I'm not having fun playing Viticulture, so I'm going to stick with Glory to Rome. Pete.
I'm not having fun playing Glory to Rome, so I'm going to stick with Viticulture. Chris.
I have fun playing both of these games. Glory to Rome, I feel like leads to some moments where the whole table has fun. Just yelling Glory to Rome. I'm going to go with Glory to Rome. David.
Come on.
Yeah, I don't even know why I'm pausing here. Glory to Rome for me all day, every day. I do get what Pete is saying, though, with replayability. I do think that's a valid point, but if we're burning a game, I'm burning Viticulture like tomorrow. Okay, there we go.
All right, so Glory to Rome wins the fun factor over Viticulture. We now have a tie 2-2. Our normal tiebreaker, our fifth people, Dave, couldn't be with us again this week, so we're using our alternate tiebreaker. The first tiebreaker is which game got the most votes as we went through. Viticulture had 10, Glory to Rome had 10, so we move on to the next tiebreaker. We look at individual votes. Who did each of us vote for more? David voted across the board for Glory to Rome. Pete voted across the board for Viticulture. If you know math, you already know where it's going. Daniela was squeaked it out with Glory to Rome. I squeaked it out with Viticulture. It's a tie. It's 2-2 there. The third tiebreaker is we each get a single vote. This is going to be a tiebreaker. This is going to be a tie as well, but we each get to vote for one game. Who do we think should have won this battle? Pete.
Viticulture.
David.
Glory to Rome.
Daniela.
Glory to Rome.
And I am going to go with Glory to Rome.
There you go.
Which ends the tie 3-1 on the tiebreaker. Glory to Rome takes out Viticulture to move on to the final four.
Glory to Rome.
Glory to Rome.
Glory to Rome.
That was
What is
Zero.
happening?
I got no camels. I got no Rome.
I have no influence.
I was surprised myself with that Glory to Rome call. You know what? I feel like that's the better
No,
game.
I get it. I get the game. I just don't like the game. And maybe if I played it more, I'd like it more. But man.
All right, well, let's take Pete out of his misery. Let's go to our last Elite Eight game here. In our final matchup, we have the number 7 seed, El Grande, defeated Champions of Midgard to get here. And then it's going up against our number 2 seed, Terraforming Mars, defeated Lockup to get here. We'll start with theme and production, and I'll go to Daniela.
Ooh, this is going to be a hard one all across these categories. Theme and production, I think, are both really nice and clean on both of these games. El Grande, for what you get out of it, it is simple. It is nice and compact in there. Terraforming Mars has quite a few more components. But the theme and production overall, I think I feel like I'm doing a little bit more thematic work in Terraforming Mars. David.
It's also a tough one. They're both very beige games. I'm going to have to agree with Daniela. I'm just going to call it simple. Terraforming Mars, I feel like you're actually doing what you say you're going to do. So easy enough. Going over to Pete.
Yeah, it's 3 for Terraforming Mars. There's, we talked about production value. There's some issues. I think with Terraforming Mars, when it comes to those player boards, it's hard to overlook that. But also, I just don't see that big of a theme coming through that you get with Terraforming Mars and El Grande. So I'm going to go Terraforming Mars. Chris?
Yeah, I agree with what you said as far as the player boards in Terraforming Mars. I think everything else is okay. El Grande's pretty beige, as you put it, right? It literally is beige for the most part. I love the theme of Terraforming Mars. It's going to be 4-0. Terraforming Mars takes that first category to win theme and production. We'll go on to mechanisms. I'll go back to Pete, and I got to tell you, Pete, it's like every vote you give is like, I don't want to do this vote. Hopefully, you get a decent one here. What's your vote for mechanisms?
You know what? I'm gonna put a stake in the ground here. I'm gonna say El Grande. I really like the mechanism with El Grande where you have to bid on those cards and then just the way that interacts. I get there's a lot of other mechanics in Terraforming Mars that's more of a race. I'm just going with El Grande. I'm sticking with it. Chris?
I'm going to stick with Terraforming Mars. There are a lot of mechanisms within Terraforming Mars that I think work well together. You've got the race with respect to playing for the milestones. At the same time, you've got all the different cards. You're trying to find the right combination. You got David saying, okay, I built a bear, though, so I can eat whatever fish you got, whatever the case is. I like the way all those mechanisms come together. I'll go Terraforming Mars. I'll kick it to David.
So, yeah, for mechanisms, for me, Pete, you made really good points. Chris, you made really good points. I like both of these games, so it's very difficult. But because Pete said he's driving a stake in the ground, I'm going to go out on a limb too. I like the simplicity of it. It is also my number 4 game of all time, so El Grande is going to take mechanisms for me on this one. But if the wind blew the other way, I could go that way too. So Daniela, you're up.
Yeah, tough here. I think both of them are nice and clean. I really like both of the games. I like both of the mechanisms that they bring to the table. When we're playing them, I think we have a great time playing them. I enjoy the mechanisms of terraforming Mars more. And again, it's not to say I don't like El Grandes. It's just where I'm landing today.
All right, so we have 2-2 tie in mechanisms. We'll move on to value for your time. I'll start. This is a tough one for me here because I feel like El Grande always involved. If it's an hour and a half game, it's an hour and a half of play completely. Terraforming Mars, there can be some downtime, but for the most part, unless you have a really short round, it comes back around to you relatively quickly. But I think there's so much. It's a little bit of a deeper game, roughly the same playing time. I'm going to go with Terraforming Mars. I'll kick it to Daniela.
I feel the game moves actually faster in El Grande. So I'm going to say El Grande for the time factor here because I think with the little bit more interaction from all of us, I would say more deeply involved together on the outcomes of what's happening on everybody's turn. To me, the game moves a little bit quicker, but in a good way. It's not like, oh, I got to get this game done. To me, it just flows better. David?
Both good points. I'm just going to say El Grande. That's where I feel like value for my time is, but specified on a 5-player game. That's where I want to be with El Grande. So I'll play it every time at 5. Kicking over to Pete.
Yeah, for exactly the reason you said, I'm actually going to go the other way because I don't see getting 5 people. We're the 5th meeple, and we're probably more of a unique group, but the value there for my time, I just think I get a little bit more out of Terraforming Mars. I just don't see El Grande hitting the table as much as I would like it to.
All right, so another tie, 2-2, really close games. Value for your time is split. We go on to replayability. I'll start this one. El Grande seems a bit samey to me, even though I would play it over and over and over again. But to you guys' points, I would play it at 5 and 4. I wouldn't play it at a lower count. Similarly, Terraforming Mars, I like it at 4 and 3. I'm not too crazy about it at 2, but I think, again, just the number of different ways you can play it, the different combinations of cards you can get. I'm sticking with Terraforming Mars. I'll go back to Pete.
Yeah, I agree with you. Terraforming Mars for the reasons that you said. There's not much more to say about that. Danielle?
Yeah, I'm going with Terraforming Mars. David?
Begrudgingly, I will go with Terraforming Mars.
All right, so Terraforming Mars, a clean sweep on replayability. We go to fun factor. I'll come back to David.
Fun factor to me, El Grande on this one. I do have fun playing both of these games for a variety of different reasons. I could teach a heavier game, I feel like, which El Grande is not just a beginner's game, but I could teach it to beginners. And so therefore, I would never try to teach Terraforming Mars to anybody as far as like if they're in the beginning stages. So fun factor to me, El Grande. I just have better memories. Kicking it over to Daniela.
Yeah, this is tough because I feel in the group, I really like El Grande as the group. And I believe like last time we played with the 5, we just had a really good time. However, for me, what I want to play to have fun is going to be Terraforming Mars. Pete?
I agree with you, Daniela. Terraforming Mars, they're 2 different kinds of fun. And I just like the Terraforming Mars. I feel like I have more control over it. I mentioned it before. Area control isn't my most favorite, and I think there's that interaction I like, but I think I also get that interaction with Terraforming Mars. Terraforming Mars. Chris?
All right, I enjoy playing Terraforming Mars. I have fun playing El Grande. As a fun factor, I'm going to go with El Grande. Split down the middle again. We have a tie there, but Terraforming Mars took theme and production and replayability. It was enough to squeak out a win. Terraforming Mars turns red and defeats El Grande for our final spot in the Final Four. All right, guys, we've made it down to the Final Four in the 2025 Meeple Madness Battle of the Funnest tournament. We have Brass Birmingham, Lost Ruins of Arnak, Glory to Rome still hanging around there, and Terraforming Mars. What do you think, guys? Worthy set of games, or did somebody squeak in here?
This is going to be bizarre.
I don't want to say anything yet.
Do we think we know who's going to the championship? Don't tell me who, but do you think you know who's going?
I'm gonna jot mine down here.
Yeah,
So
I think I know.
All right, well, let's find out. Our first Final Four matchup, we have Brass Birmingham. It was our number 1 seed taking on Lost Ruins of Arnak, our number 5 seed. 2 pretty good, pretty solid games. We're going to start with theme and production. I'll kick it to Pete.
Theme and production, I'm going to go with Lost Ruins of Arnak. Daniela?
Lost Ruins of Arnak. David?
I'm going to go the same. Lost Ruins. Kicking it over to Chris.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Lost Ruins as well. I love the theme. Production's pretty darn good. Brass is a good, solid game. Nothing special in this category, though. Lost Ruins sweeps it 4-0. We go to Mechanisms. I'll go to David.
Mechanisms to me, as we kind of go in the fight, I think you have to start looking at just a lot more of what both games bring to the table at this point. I think we've hashed out a lot of the mechanisms. But for me, Brass Birmingham, just that pause in the middle of the game, resetting of the board, I think it just stands out even among other games. I think that's why it's number one. I just think that mid-game pause and just building up towards that, knowing that that's going to happen, and did you set yourself up for phase 2 of that game? And it does it seamlessly, and I think for that reason, that mechanism on this point in this battle is going to take it for me. So I'm going I'm going Brass Birmingham on this one. Kicking it over to Pete.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Brass as well. The mechanics all work really well together. I mentioned it before. That's it. Brass Birmingham mechanics do it. Chris?
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with Brass as well. I think the mechanisms are solid in both of these. I love chaining things together in Lost Ruins. Brass, I think even just the player board and the way how you got to get things off and the different ways you can get those pieces off to really make it work when you need it to work, I think is a pretty well put together. But we'll go to Daniela to see if we have a sweep or if she's still going digging.
I'm going digging. I don't want to do networking. I don't want to chain things together. I want to go on an island and discover things in an archaeological dig. And so for me, that's just the difference in the two games. Not to say that either one is, or that Brass is like, there's wrong. I don't want to play that.
Yeah, too bad, because we're hopping on a train,
bad,
we're
so
taking
sad.
a boat. Brass Birmingham defeats Lost Ruins in mechanisms, and we now have a tie, 1-1, moving into value for your time. Back to Danielle.
Yeah, Lost Ruins. I don't got time for Brass. Pete.
This one is a tough one. I feel like I get a better play out of Brass than I do Lost Ruins of Arniac. I'm going to go with Brass Birmingham. David?
I must be sipping whatever Pete's drinking, so I'm also going to go with Brass Birmingham. It is very close, though, for me, but when I just think of the value I get, the time it takes to play each one, I think you get great value for both of them, but I'm just going to go with Brass. Chris?
All right, I'm thinking what value for your time is from the start of setup to the end of scoring. Brass is a longer setup than Lost Ruins. When you're doing all the scoring, it actually takes a decent amount of time. You're sitting there trying to keep track of everything. It's an awesome game, but there's a lot of time lost in setup and in scoring. I'm going to go with Lost Ruins, which means we have 2-2 on value for your time, which is a split. We'll leave it as a tie. We go to replayability. I will come back to David.
For me, on this one, Brass Birmingham right now just takes it for me if we're just playing base game. It has way more replayability. Yeah, it can feel a little bit samey, I guess, but I just think that the way that the players can actually manipulate the game board, I just think that it's way better. Right now, I think Lost Ruin has a problem. If you play that game a lot, I think there are certain tracks you can win on. I'm kicking it over to Daniela.
Okay, well, I'm not playing base. I'm going to play with all the expansions I can, and I'm going to play with Lost Ruins of Arnak for what are we on? Replayability.
Yes.
Go ahead, Chris.
When I look at Lost Ruins of Arnak, I agree. If you're not going up that racing track or that research track, you're not winning. You have to go that path. I think, David, I've seen you try different paths. They don't work. You have to do certain things. At the same time, I look at Brass and I say, I'm always trying to do Big Cotton. Pottery is just a secondary thought. I'm always trying to follow that same path as well. However, that path will inevitably get blocked. And then all of a sudden, okay, that game becomes different. I'm going with Brass, and I'm also going to kick it to Pete.
Yeah, Brass Birmingham, one thing that we didn't mention too much is when you're playing the game, when things come out, it really changes how that game plays. And we didn't really talk about that too much. So, the setup's the same, but the cards that you have in your hand, where you're going to start, there's just so much, even just the start of the game feels different than every other one. Lost Ruins of Arniac, I know what I need to do. I need to go up that temple track no matter what. Now, if we talk about expansions and all the other stuff, yeah, there's other options with that. But base to base, Brass Birmingham's going to take it for me.
All right, so 3-1, Brass Birmingham beats Lost Ruins in replayability. It takes a 2-1 lead in the categories. We go to the fun factor. Danielle, you voted for Lost Ruins across the board.
Just keep it going.
All right, Lost Ruins for Daniela.
Back to you, Chris.
Back to me. Fun factor. I enjoy playing Brass. I enjoy playing Lost Ruins, but Brass is a grind. I mean, you've got to be thinking that whole time. It can, Pete, you take my stinking beer every time we play this. And it's always with like 2 turns left. It's like, I got nothing else to do. My whole thing was built up to that. 2 hours wasted. Lost Ruins for me. But I'll go to you, Pete, so you can negate it.
Yeah, it's fun taking your beer. So
Yes, it is.
I like the interaction better in Brass. I think there's just so much going on. You mentioned it, but I think that's also a positive because sometimes you're using the things that you want taken. So I just think that's fun. When I'm playing Lost Ruins, doing my own thing, there's a little bit of blocking on worker placement, maybe a little bit of racing. Brass Birmingham's going to be my vote for fun factor. David?
You know, I had just recently, you guys all own Lost Ruins of Arnak, and I did not, but I recently purchased a copy. I got a good deal on something. I feel like I've been teaching more people that, so it's fresher in my head because it's hard to get Brass to the table as much because you have to have the right group. With all that being said, I can't believe I'm going to say it.
Just say it. Rip the Band-Aid off.
I'm going to go with Lost Ruins on this one. Probably because if I would have played Brass yesterday, I probably would have said that, but I've been playing more Lost Ruins lately, so.
All right, so 3-1, Lost Ruins defeats Brass Birmingham with the fun factor. We have a 2-2 tie. Brass won mechanisms and replayability. Lost Ruins of Arnak won fun factor and theme and production. Our first tiebreaker is which game got the most votes. Lost Ruins of Arnak got 11 votes to Brass's 9. They win the tiebreaker. Lost Ruins of Arnak moves on to the finals of our Meeple Madness tournament. All right, so number 1 seed goes down. Lost Ruins of Arnak into the finals. We go to our second Final Four matchup. The surprise, Glory to Rome, number 14 seed against the number 2 seed, Terraforming Mars. Let's see who ends up going to the finals. Theme and production, Glory to Rome, Terraforming Mars.
No comparison.
All right, go for it, Danielle.
All right, we're going to go with Terraforming Mars on the theme and production here. Again, I really do wish the Glory to Rome felt a little bit like what they're asking you to do. The city's burned down, you're trying to rebuild it. I kind of get the idea, but not when I'm sitting on the table sitting there looking at you.
Yeah, kind of a pasted on theme.
Yeah.
You know, yeah.
Pete.
Theme and production, Terraforming Mars. There's no comparison. And if you say otherwise, I don't know what you're drinking. Chris?
Production is not that great on either one of these, but I think Glory to Rome is worse. Theme is great in Terraforming Mars. I'm going with Terraforming Mars. David?
Well, since I own a black box version, I think anybody out there that would own the black box version would have to go with this one on Glory to Rome. Nothing against Terraforming Mars, but if I didn't own the black box, I probably would say something different.
All right, so David goes with Glory to Rome. The rest of us, Terraforming Mars. Terraforming Mars takes theme and production. We move on to mechanisms. David, I'll start with you again.
You know, for mechanisms with me, on this one, I'm going to have to give the edge to Terraforming Mars. I mean, I do like multi-use cards, but that's what you're getting out of Glory to Rome. I just think that Terraforming Mars at this point in the battle brings more to the table. So for those reasons, I'm going to go with that. Going over to Daniela.
Yeah, so both of these, David, I mean, with the multi-use cards and that I think Glory to Rome does that very well. But when we're playing too with the other mechanisms and all the other things you can do with Terraforming Mars, I enjoy that more. It's, again, not to say that one's worse than the other, but I'm going to go with Terraforming Mars. Pete.
Terraforming Mars, that's a easy pick. Chris?
Yeah, I'm going to have to go with Terraforming Mars as well. I really do like Glory to Rome. I think the mechanisms are pretty cool in Glory to Rome. They can be a little bit confusing, and sometimes, while they work right most of the time, sometimes they just feel a little wrong. I'm going to go with Terraforming Mars, which means Terraforming Mars sweeps mechanisms completely 4-0 to take a commanding 2-0 lead in our battle. We go to value for your time. Daniela, I'll start with you.
So I'm actually going to go with Glory to Rome on this because even though it takes a little bit of time to play the game, I didn't feel like it took a lot of time. There was a lot of turns. It was a lot of moving as we're playing through it. Terraforming Mars is you kind of sit down, you make your tableau, you kind of move through it, and it's a nice paced game as well. But I think Glory to Rome just moves at a better pace. David.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with you, Danielle, on this one. I will also go with Glory to Rome on this one. I do think there's value for both of these for a time, but I think I just like Glory to Realm a little bit more because I think it plays a little bit faster. And so that's where I'm going to go with this one if I have an hour to play a game. Kicking it over to Pete.
Yeah, just because it's faster doesn't mean I get more value out of it. I think there is a lot of the interaction that you get with Terraforming Mars. The game does go fast, Terraforming Mars. There is a way to move it along. Sometimes you want that to go faster. And the value, again, I just feel like I'm out of control when I'm playing. And if that's what you're looking for, that's great. But that's not what I want. So I'm going to go with Terraforming Mars for value for my time. Chris?
Yeah, I think value for your time, it might depend on who you got playing with you. I've seen, we've gone to our game nights at the church, and as the first game, people will pull out Terraforming Mars. They're still playing like 4 hours later. I mean, I've seen that happen, and I've seen it happen a couple of times. I was really worried when our group started playing Terraforming Mars, like, this is going to take forever. It doesn't.
Yeah,
right.
that was
If you're
shocking,
focused and you get moving, it doesn't take forever. And I think it almost takes the same amount. I think it's a little longer than Glory to Realm, maybe a little more than a little bit. But I feel like for what I get for that amount of time, even as much as I like Glory to Realm, I'm still going to have to go with Terraforming Mars, which means it's a 2-2 split on value for your time. Nobody wins that category. We move on to replayability. I'll go to Pete.
I know you guys know I don't like Glory to Rome, but I think there's more cards in Terraforming Mars. There's more interaction on the board as well as those cards and your tableau. There's timing issues or timing challenges or timing, can affect how you're playing. I just think there's more game there when it comes to the replayability on it. I'm going to stick with Terraforming Mars. I'm going to swing it over to David.
I'm going to agree with Pete on this one. I think there is a little bit more replayability on Terraforming Mars. I just think it's a bigger game. It was built to do something different, but at this point in the battles, you got to bring all you can to the fight, and so sometimes you have 2 knives instead of 1, so I'm going to go with Terraforming Mars on this one. Kicking over to Daniela.
I have 2 aliens. I'm going to go with Terraforming Mars as well. Chris?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Terraforming Mars too. The way those cards come out, when those cards come out, it's a different game every time. I'm going with Terraforming Mars. That's a win across the board. We go to Fun Factor. I'm going to start that one. And I've been saying, I think there's a difference between enjoying a game, having fun. Glory to Rome, to me, was fun. Just, again, yelling Glory to Rome, screwing somebody over, laughing at someone who can't figure out which one's the architect, what's the craftsman. I enjoy Glory to Rome. I'm going to actually give it the nod on Fun Factor. Pete?
Yeah, you guys aren't going to believe this, but I'm going to go with Glory to Rome on this one. As much as I dislike the game, it can be fun. And I'm trying to be true to what their categories are. And as much as I don't want to say dislike the game, it just doesn't fit my gaming style, but I do have fun with it. And, the time I almost got you and I stole your stuff, yeah, that's fun. It can be.
Can I change my vote, guys?
But we talk about these games being really dependent upon the group that you're with. And I'm going to add that caveat to that. Whereas if you're playing with the right group of people and you're ready for the game, I think you'll probably get more fun laughing and back and forth out of playing Glory to Rome. David?
Yeah, for all the reasons Pete said, I'm going to go with Glory to Rome and the fun factor on this one, just because, but I like the caveat Pete said, you have to be ready to kind of backstab people. You have to be okay with that, like a lot of take that. You just have to be okay with that. If you're not, Terraforming Mars is a great alternative, and I do have a lot of fun playing that. So it does depend on the group, but our group tends to have fun a little bit when we have a little chaos. So I'm going to go there. Daniela.
Yeah, and for Chris making fun of the person who doesn't understand the difference between the architect.
Yeah, that was you. Sorry. Sorry.
Yeah, so
No, that's me too.
I think this deserves a sweep across the board for Glory to Rome.
Glory to Rome.
So Glory to Rome takes the fun factor. Doesn't matter. With a score of 3-1, Terraforming Mars steals Rome's glory and moves into the finals of our Meeple Madness tournament. All right, Meeples, we are finally here. The finals of the 2025 Meeple Madness tournament. We're putting these final 2 games head-to-head, mano a mano, or I guess juego a juego, to see which game becomes the champion of the past year. You guys ready?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
All right, let's ramp this up a little bit. In one corner, weighing in at 3.26 out of 5 with an overall BGG rating of 8.4, circling the sun at 54,000 miles per hour, able to leap Escarus Mons in a single bound, supplying steel and titanium for your board gaming cranium, the ruler in red, the coolest kitty in Noctis City, the greatest show not on Earth, terraforming Mars. In the other corner, weighing in at 2.91 out of 5, with an overall BGG rating of 8.1, originally discovered on a small island while surveying the sacred stratum of an exciting excavation, a free-flowing fountain of fortune, the enticing artifact that every archaeologist aches after, the glorious governor of Gargantuan Guardians, everybody's idol, can you dig it? Lost Ruins of Arnak. And now let's see which game takes home the prize in our 2025 Meeple Madness Battle of the Funnest Showdown. All right, guys, let's do this and finish this off. We got Lost Ruins of Arnak, Terraforming Mars, theme and production. Daniela.
All right, I'm going to go all out on this, and I'm going to say these are the blinged out versions. I'm going to go with Lost Ruins. Pete has had some awesome upgrades to the game. When you get the game and you're playing it with the coins and the compasses that he has and all these other little things, it brings out another level of adventure to the game that's fun to put those pieces in your hands and play. So for blinging it out and beyond the theme and production of just what we've already talked about, I'm going to go with Lost Ruins. David.
I come from Indiana, so Indiana Jones, I still can't get away from it. I just like that theme. It sticks with me. I love space, but for whatever reason on this one, I am going with Lost Ruins of Arnak as well. I'm going to kick it over to Pete.
Yeah, these both have really great, strong themes. They both have minor production issues, but I am going to go with Lost Ruins of Arnak on this one. I think it's just gives me that little bit more. I've played it more. I think I enjoy it a little bit more, theme and production. Chris?
Yeah, I love both themes here. I think Terraforming Mars, it's not a minor production issue. It's a major production issue with that stupid playmat. Lost Ruins, we're sitting there saying, oh man, those coins and the compasses. But in reality, we're only saying that because the other pieces that Lost Ruins gives you are awesome. When I first saw those rubies and the arrowheads and the little tablets, the maps, I was like, wow, Pete's blinging that out. And then I bought my own copy. I was like, no, it actually comes with that. And so it's funny that Lost Ruins maybe takes a ding that, it didn't bling everything out. It gave you a lot for what you're getting there. For me, it's Lost Ruins, 4-0. Lost Ruins wins the first category, theme and production. We go to mechanisms. Pete.
Yeah, I'm going to go to Mars on this one. I think there's just more mechanisms in the game that I enjoy better than Lost Ruins of Arnak. I'm going to swing it back to Chris.
I'm not sure what I want to do. I like both of the mechanisms. Lost Ruins, I think there's a little bit more going on there with respect to putting things together. Boss, this is so tough. Terraforming Mars has a lot, and they work really well together. I'm going to babble a little bit. I'll edit it out later, hopefully. You know what? I'm going to go with Lost Ruins of Arnak because there are some turns when you're playing Lost Ruins that are just really, really fun turns. And the feeling when you get into that 4th and 5th round and you're like, man, I just made everything happen. I'm going with Lost Ruins. Daniela.
Interesting. I know as you're sitting here mumbling, I'm I'm kind of thinking along the same things. Like, what is the standout piece between the two games? And I think Terraforming Mars has a wonderful cadence of game, and I think it is it's here for a reason in our top 2. And I think I'm going to go with Lost Ruins of Arnak, though, too, on this one. David.
Oh, yeah, this one is a tough one. I think both of these games are worthy to be a champion. That being said, I'm going to go with Lost Ruins of Arnak on this one as well. I just love the combo-tastic turns. I like kind of that ebb and that flow, but I love just getting that last squeeze that I can and trying to, I just keep coming back to it, but that's the part of this game that I remember the most and that I love the most. So, going to keep going.
All right, Lost Ruins of Arnak wins mechanisms 3-1 over Terraforming Mars. It's 7 votes to 1 so far. So we've got a championship game where one game comes out and just starts a running. But now we go to value for your time. I'll kick it back to David. These are all so hard.
Oh, value for my time. These ones are tough. I mean, when I think about value for my time, both these games play really fast in my head. There's not a lot of downtime. The turns are quick. They're snappy for the most part. I'm going to have to give this one to Lost Ruins. I can't believe I'm saying that. I thought I was going to go the other way, but I just think about the snappiness of the turns, and I feel like Lost Ruins just comes out a little bit snappier than I think Terraforming Mars does. So for that reason, I'm going to give it to Lost Ruins. It might not even be true, but it's in my head. So I'm going to kick it over to Daniela.
I know we're all a little bit stuck here. I think for the value for my time, for me, I'm going to go with Terraforming Mars because there's a little bit something there that I feel like I can keep moving in the game as we're going. And if I'm getting wedged out in Lost Ruins of Arnak, there's something there that if I can't make it to a monster, if I can't make it to a certain area because I don't have the boots or I don't have certain things, it seems a little stagnant for me. So I'm going to go with Terraforming Mars just for my time of, for me, a little bit more of the flow of the game.
And you can get blocked out
Yeah.
on that research track, especially I think maybe on the backside where I remember we were playing with our fifth people, Dave, and he's like, there's nothing I can do.
You can't move up anymore.
I can't move up anymore, and you got to move up there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Chris?
Yeah, I'm actually going to go with Terraforming Mars. Again, I came into this group, like I said, thinking this is going to be a long game. It isn't. There's so much wrapped up into that game. I'm going to do Terraforming Mars, kick it over to Pete.
Yeah, these are really close, but I do want to point out one item. We talk about quick, snappy turns and that. That is until you get into the last round with Lost Ruins of Arnak, and you could be sitting there waiting for somebody to take a epic 8-minute turn, and you're just sitting there. In Terraforming Mars, the turns move quickly. You have 2 actions, and they're not that extensive. You might have to do some quick math or something like that. So for that reason only, I'm going to give the nod to Terraforming Mars for the value for my time. These are really close, and we're getting down to the points of, what sways you one way or another. That's the route I'm going, right or wrong.
All right, so Terraforming Mars starts the comeback. It's 3-1 on value for your time. Terraforming Mars takes that. Lost Ruins still has a lead, 2-1. We go to replayability. I'm going to start this one. Lost Ruins, I played a lot. Terraforming Mars, I've played a lot. I feel like, though, Lost Ruins has a certain path that you want to go. We mentioned you have to go up the research track. Terraforming Mars can be different every single time. I'm going with Terraforming Mars. I'll kick it back to Pete.
Yeah, I'm with you on this one. I would like to say there's more replayability with Lost Ruins of Arnak. I think there is if we start throwing in expansions. But I'm trying to go off of the base games on what you're doing in the base game. And I just think every game of Terraforming Mars is going to feel a lot different than every game that you play of Lost Ruins of Arnak. And again, you may like playing that game, and I do. It's just I'm trying to stick to the replayability portion of this. Let's go over to Daniela.
All right. I think there's, for me, a little bit more to discover in the cards with Terraforming Mars. I feel I've seen most of the cards in Lost Ruins. I still think the artifact is a little bit unknown, but it's very hard to get those cards as well. So I just think that playing the game with Terraforming Mars and having a little bit more to discover is going to be the way I swing this one. David.
Yeah, to me, this one's actually probably the easiest category. I'm going with Terraforming Mars. Just more ways to win, more paths to victory. And so for that reason, for right now, I'm going Terraforming Mars.
All right, so Terraforming Mars sweeps replayability. We are now at 8 votes each. We're going into the final quarter of the finals here. Fun factor. Ugh. Lost Ruins of Arnak versus Terraforming Mars. I'm looking around the table to see who is trying not to look at me so I don't go to them first. Pete was looking at me. So, fun factor, Pete. Lost Ruins of Arnak versus Terraforming Mars.
Yeah, this one's actually, I think, easier vote for me when I think of what I have fun playing. I play Lost Ruins of Arnak with Dave a lot. We always have fun doing it. I play Terraforming Mars. I have fun, but I just get more fun out of Lost Ruins of Arnak. I'm going to stick with that. I'm going to swing back to Chris this time.
I think I'm going to have to go with Lost Ruins as well. It doesn't mean that if those are both set up on the table, that's where I'm going. But from the standpoint of saying, okay, which one am I having more fun playing? Again, it goes back to those combos. It goes back to not really having to think things super through until you get to the end, and then you're thinking like crazy. But I'm going to have to go with Lost Ruins. I will kick it over to Daniela.
I think these are probably like my top 2 games really of this year. So this is very difficult for me. I really enjoyed the game within Terraforming Mars quite a bit. When I'm thinking of the fun factor overall, though, I think the theme and the adventure, and I know we're not really talking about expansions, but those really added on to some really incredible moments and fun ways to angle your plays and your moves in your game. I think I'm going to have to say,
Follow your heart.
Lost Ruins, but I love you, Terraforming Mars. David.
Yeah, for me, I'm just going to go with what I feel at this moment in time, and I've been playing more Lost Ruins. I've been introducing that game to more people. Maybe it's because it's a little bit easier to do that. But for right now, Lost Ruins, I'm just having more fun with it right now. So that's where I'm going to go. But Terraforming Mars, right there behind it. So
Yeah, so that was a close one. Lost Ruins destroys Terraforming Mars in fun factor. However, close all the way down. In the end, still undefeated. Meeple Madness champion, Lost Ruins of Arnak, the ultimate battle of the funnest survivor.
Is that what you picked, Pete?
That is what I picked.
Oh,
Yes, Lost
interesting.
Ruins of Arnak.
Yeah, I thought it would be down to brass and Terraforming Mars, so interesting. So what do you guys think? Did we get it right?
I think once we got to the finals and we had Lost Ruins of Arnak against Terraforming Mars, we couldn't get it wrong. Mm-hmm. Whichever one came out was going to be the right answer because they're both worthy champions. I know that's cliche, but it's true. And we really struggled through that last one. If I had to say, did we get it right?
I know.
It's tough. I'm still questioning it, but of course we did because we voted it out, we battled it out.
I'm
and that's what we
excited
got.
for Dave to listen, to go to either yell at us.
I think he's going to be extremely happy with this. I know this was one of his more highly rated games, but it has dropped for him a little bit, and I'm not quite sure why that is. But you know, this is an interesting thought experiment. If anybody wants to try to go through it themselves, you know, when you're comparing two different games, it's tricky because you look at them in different perspectives, and you know, one game I would really love to play and another game I would really love to play, but it's dependent upon your situation. Do you have the right people? Do you have the right group? Do you have the right time? So, you know, when we go through our steps and our categories, you know, when you look at it that way and try to be as objective as you can in a subjective type of environment, I think we did a good job.
yeah, I mean, I think that the seedings were difficult for some of the games, you know, but that's just how brackets are. Brackets, you know, if you look at the men and women's brackets, normally there are brackets that are harder than others, and I think that for our case this year, I think there were harder brackets than other brackets, and I think some of the teams, if they were in the right brackets, or some of the games, if they were seeded differently, could have gone farther. Because I think we had some matchups that nobody really wanted to see, potentially, but we got to the end, and I like the end result, so
Yeah.
it is what it is.
And that's how March Madness is.
Yeah, I really thought Terraforming Mars had a chance not to make it out of its first round against Lockup. It turned out to not be that close, but just the way David and I feel about Lockup, I thought it could have taken Terraforming Mars down, but once it got through that, it just kind of breezed through until the end.
Till the end.
All right. Well, guys, it was a tough battle, but we survived, and so did Lost Ruins of Arnak. So our 2025 fifth Meeple Madness champion lies there. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and remember, if you want to get in touch with us, email us at thefifthmeeple@gmail.com or hit us up on any of our social media channels. Thank you guys for being at the table with us today, and until next time, keep battling.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye, everybody.
Sayonara.
And it should...
I would ask that you. That's dumb.
Real quick, is my mic working?
yeah.
Yes.
Okay, good.
You wake.
Chris, go ahead.
You want to do that again?
It's been a long day.
We're getting a little stupid.
Yeah, that didn't sound right.
Multiplayer solo crap. Bye.